Moram još ovo snimiti. Znači, pogledajte ovo. Mainstream media covers up Jeffrey Epstein ties to Israel. Znači, korporativni ovi mediji, svugdje cijeli zapad prikriva da Izrael stoji špijunski ovaj cionistički genocidni Izrael, da je svugdje imaju svoje pipke. Epstein je povezan sa Izraelom, a ova kuja Maxwell, ona je radila s Mossadom. Njeni otac i mater su radili za Izrael. O čem pričamo? A sad pogledajte ovo. Znači, u prijašnjem videu sam navela, to jest ne ja, nego, znači, dokazano je da je Poljska, to jest u Varšavi, je Epstein imao, to je bila baza gdje su te curice od 13-14 godina su vrbovali i odvlačili tamo na onaj njegov pedofilski otok. A sad slušajte ovog gada poljskog šta govori. Znači, on optužuje Rusiju, nikakva Rusija, nemojte pušiti tu propagandu sotonsku.
Well, that's how we had that power to begin with. Now the real question is, when we say Epstein worked for intelligence, what are we referring to? Specifically, Israel and the CIA. Same, by the way. Same.
Da.
Now, you wouldn't know that if you simply consumed U.S. corporate media, because they are going out of their way to bury that, avoid reporting on it, and in fact, divert your attention to something entirely different. Before we get to that, Jake, your 2 cents.
Yeah, I think the way that they are pretending that it was Russia instead of Israel, as we're about to show you, really reveals their hand. Because we're going to show you how it's clearly not Russia. They have access to the same material. So any outlet, any media outlet saying it's Russia is not just getting the story a little wrong, or it could be Russia and Israel. No, they're purposely putting Russia out there to mislead you so you don't realize it's Israel. Because the evidence is all
So despite all that evidence that Jake is alluding to, some of which we've shown you on this program, which links Epstein specifically to Israel, well, you still have many of the usual suspects trying to lead you in the wrong direction. And what do I mean by usual suspects? Well, remember, CBS News is now headed by Barry Weiss, an unapologetic and fanatical Zionist. And here's what they're pushing.
Poland says it's looking into possible connections between convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein and Russian intelligence services. The announcement came after the U.S.
Znači, Poljska, u kojoj se upravo trebaju otvoriti kaznene radnje, ispitivanja Epsteinovog pedofilskog kruga. Znači, Varšava im je bila glavni centar, Poljska. I znaju jako dobro s kim je ova pedofilčina surađivao. Jako dobro znaju jer su i sami upleteni u to. Znači, sam vrh u Poljskoj je upleten u to. Pogledajte vi, sad Ruse spominje. Ma marš đubre jedno, niste vi meni nikakva braća, ajde mrš tamo.
Justice Department last week released millions more files related to the federal investigation into Epstein. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk said Tuesday, quote, more and more leads, more and more information, and more commentary in the global press all relate to the suspicion that this unprecedented pedophilia scandal was co-organized by Russian intelligence
Mrš
services.
đubre, lažljivo. Mrš!
Amazing.
Glega, lažljivac, lažljivi.
Incredible news. I would like to see those files because
Ti si sljedeći, Sotono.
Now, there are files that discuss Russia, but specifically emails that Epstein is sending.
Izrael niko nigdje ne spominje, niko.
Some of the contacts
Jer misle da smo glupi.
in Russia, specifically so Ehud Barak can attend some sort of, it's known as the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. Epstein had a relationship with the head of the forum, a guy by the name of Sergei Belyakov, and he helped Barak, meaning Ehud Barak, secure private meetings with senior figures in the Russian government. Now, did he do that at the behest of Russia, or did he do that at the behest of Ehud Barak, the former prime minister of Israel? You're going to tell me that Epstein was a spy for Russia? That's amazing. There's other examples I want to give you. Here's another one.
Lažljivo
Sadly, from
đubre.
LBC, which some of their programming I really like, but this post is total crap. Former MI6 spy insists Jeffrey Epstein was recruited by Russian organized criminals and likely had compromat on Trump.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah. Okay, so I have more. I have evidence to the contrary, but Cenk, I want you to jump in first.
Yeah, so in the emails, you see Epstein doing several things with Putin, and that's why Putin is mentioned a lot in the emails. So that's the thing that Israel first is hanging their hat on. Well, he said Putin a lot, he said Russia a lot. Yeah, but what did he say? So in some cases, he is successful in setting up meetings with the Russians. So Ehud Barak, the former prime minister of Israel, asked for a meeting with Putin, and it appears that Epstein delivers on that meeting. So that shows you, oh my God, Epstein's one of the most powerful people on earth to be able to set that up. But in other instances, he is repeatedly trying to get a meeting with Putin on his own and can't. Well, wait, if you're working for Russian intelligence, and you see him, okay, here, have Anna give you the exact...
I want to give you the exact details here. So these are in my notes because I wanted to be specific. So throughout 2015, and you find this in the correspondences in Epstein's emails, throughout 2015, Epstein continued his attempts to arrange a meeting with Vladimir Putin to discuss economic matters, emailing the former Norwegian prime minister in July of 2015 stating, I still would like to meet Putin and talk economy. I would really appreciate your assistance. So as late as 2015, homeboy can't get in touch with Putin. He's never met with Putin. He can't get in touch with Putin, and he's unable to reach him in any way. So explain to me how the...
Ali je bio best friend sa Trumpom. Best friend sa Trumpom, pedofilom, koji je se iživljavao na curicama od 13 godina. Toliko o vezi sa Rusijom.
Leader of Russia has no relationship whatsoever with Jeffrey Epstein, who's allegedly a spy for Russia.
Hold on, one more important thing, Anna. Who did he ask to set up that meeting?
The Norwegian prime minister.
So why, if you're working for the Russians, why would you have to go to the Norwegian prime minister to try to get a meeting with the Russians?
Weird.
So, like, all the reporters at Free Press, CBS, New York Post, etc., have seen that, and they still wrote it as if it was for the Russians. That's a purposeful lie.
There's more. These interactions with the Norwegian prime minister, these interactions occurred during a time when Epstein was actively trying to boost his standing in Russia and leverage connections to friends in the FSB.
Yeah. Okay, so he's trying to leverage it, but he can't get there. Okay, now, guys, at the same time, we're going to get to all the things that connect him to Israel in a second. But every time there's a story that might implicate Israel, we see in our news outlets, Russia. Russia.
Yep, Russia's always the scapegoat.
Now, here's another thing that those non-reporters don't tell you, is that Russia and Israel are opposed to one another. Do they sometimes make deals behind the scenes? Yes. By the way, that happens all the time. Our press never reports on it. Israel make deals with Turkey from time to time, and nobody is ever the wiser, right? And then it'll leak, etc., and we'll bring it to you guys, right? But overall, Russia was backing Iran and Bashar al-Assad in Syria, and Israel hated that. In fact, one of the reasons why we're so knee-deep in Ukraine is because Israel loves that we are weakening Russia with that war, because it helped them get distracted, and it allowed Israel and Turkey to bomb Bashar al-Assad and get him out of Syria.
So they can take some land.
So Russia is the idea that that the Russia and Israel are the same, or oh my God, and I've now seen this absurdity where some are putting out the propaganda that, oh no, Israel's just a colony of Russia. Russia's actually in charge. That's not remotely true. No, they're totally opposed on that. So it's and then finally the comical part, New York Post at the end of their compromat article, ironic, this propaganda article about, oh, I think it's the Russians, right? And New York Post's Murdoch owned 100% of the tank for Israel throughout the last 30 years. We've shown you hundreds of examples, right? So at the end, they go, Robert Maxwell is another connection. And I'm like, oh, they mentioned Ghislaine Maxwell's dad, who was a legendary Israeli spy. maybe they're going to actually throw something true in there. They say, who was, of course, a spy for the KGB. Oh,
Okay.
come on!
Yeah. Okay. So
Come on!
let's go to actual journalists for a minute. Okay, the real journalists.
Da.
Because it's funny. Back in October of last year, Dropsite News, while they were reporting on the leaked Epstein emails, had reported about what you just mentioned in regard to what Israel was trying to get Russia to do in Syria. So the piece, if you want to read it for yourselves, and they don't put their content behind a paywall, although if you could afford it, please support the work they do because they're amazing. But the piece, if you want to read it for yourself, is titled Jeffrey Epstein and the Mossad: How the Sex Trafficker Helped Israel Build a Back Channel to Russia Amid Syrian Civil War. Hijacked emails show how Jeffrey Epstein and former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak tried to engineer a Russian-led solution to remove Bashar al-Assad. That's what Israel wanted. They wanted him to be removed. We're not friends with Russia, we don't get along with Russia, but how can we convince Putin to work with us, okay?
So 2 quick things about that. Notice it's not Epstein trying to get the Russians to work on behalf of the Russians to get Israel to do something.
He's working on behalf of the
He's
Israelis.
on behalf of the Israelis to get the Russians to do something. And the second point is he can't. In that case, it does not work. So it's obvious that he's working for the Israelis. It's not even close, and this is one of many evidences. Go ahead.
So I'm going to give you the relevant excerpts from this piece where they say that the trove of emails exchanged at the height of the Syrian civil war between 2013 and 2016 reveal Epstein's successful efforts to secure a private meeting between Barak and Russian President Vladimir Putin to discuss a Russian-brokered end to the conflict, including winning Russian support for negotiated removal of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Together, Barak and Epstein sought to pressure the Obama administration to either intervene directly in the Syrian war or make concessions to the Kremlin in exchange for Assad's graceful exit. So basically what they were doing is they were reaching out to Putin, and in order to get Putin to do what they want with Syria and Bashar al-Assad, they were going to try to get, the U.S., I guess, to lift sanctions on Russia after the Crimea invasion. Like, they're working out various deals, like various ways to convince Putin to play ball and help them in ousting Bashar al-Assad. But you want to know something? It didn't work. It didn't work. So let me give you more. So despite securing a sit-down, it didn't work. And then they didn't succeed in convincing Russia to support Assad's ouster, but their negotiations set the stage for U.S.-Russia cooperation on disarmament of Russia's chemical weapons arsenal. Syria's chemical weapons arsenal a few months later. Now, look, does it sound like he's working for Russia?
No, he's trying to convince the Russians because he clearly 100% does not work for Russia. Instead, every deal he makes, including this one, is on behalf of who? Israel.
Exactly.
And our entire media says, I can't see it.
After their failed attempt to remove Assad, Ehud Barak and Jeffrey Epstein sought to leverage the Russian channel again in 2015 as Barak pushed for U.S. strikes on Iran and rejected Obama's nuclear deal framework. Did that work? Did Russia go after Iran after that?
No, they didn't. So obviously it doesn't work for Russia. And by the way, notice in this email and many other emails, Epstein is constantly trying to pressure the American government to bomb Syria, to bomb Iran on behalf of who?
Israel.
Nigeria, Russia, Kazakhstan? No, every single time, Israel.
Exactly. Now, when it comes to Russia, you can't find a clear link
Najodvratnija
to
zemlja na
Epstein
svijetu.
working for Russia, operating a blackmail operation on
Nakon
behalf of
svega
Russia.
što sam saznala, fuj.
You do see Jeffrey Epstein working
Jadni
real
ljudi
hard on
tamo.
behalf of another country, and of course that's Israel. So, look, everyone's focusing on what just got released by the DOJ in terms of the Epstein files, and you should be reading those. And we gave you numerous examples that show Epstein was doing work for Israel. But even before that, guys, as you know, if you watch this show regularly, Dropsite News had already done extensive reporting on all the various deals that Jeffrey Epstein had made on behalf of the Israelis. So I'll give you a few examples. This is another headline from Dropsite News. Leadership would like your help. Indian billionaire tapped Jeffrey Epstein before Modi's visits to U.S. and Israel. New Department of Justice documents reveal Epstein's direct role in fostering ties between Indian, Israeli, and U.S. elites. Here's another one. Praise Allah. There are still people like you. This is something that we actually did a story on. Jeffrey Epstein nurtured Israel Emirates ties before Abraham Accords. Okay, so we talked about that at length on this program. Here's another one. Ask Jeffrey. Epstein ran Wexner, meaning Les Wexner's pro-Israel philanthropy machine, emails reveal. The Wexner Foundation has long claimed Epstein did not make decisions regarding the use of foundation's funds. New emails show that is flagrantly false. And in these pieces, you get a sense of just how hard Epstein was working on behalf of Israel. So to say that Epstein was running a blackmail operation on behalf of Russia is absolutely insane. And it's not insane, actually. It is intentionally done to mislead the public and divert their attention away from the very clear relationship Epstein had with the Israelis.
Yeah, so we're going to get to more evidence
I ona kuja
of his
Maxwell,
connections with Israel in a
madame.
second. But let's pause here for this. So Epstein has connections to India, UAE, Russia, Mongolia, and many other countries.
Ne reši
In
rat.
every single instance, he sets up a connection to help which country? Every single time, Israel. Now, if you say that you missed that, you read all of the emails, and every time Epstein's trying to help Israel, and you see him trying to get meetings with the Russians, but he can't, trying to get the Russians to do something, but he can't, and he obviously clearly does not work for the Russians, and you write a story about how he works for the Russians, you didn't just accidentally get it wrong. You're trying to mislead your viewers, your readers, etc.
To lie to the public.
To lie to the public. So now for the public, there's a bunch of media outlets that did stories about how he works for the Russians. If you see that, understand that outlet is totally compromised by Israel, and you should never trust a word they print because it's Israeli propaganda. But all the other outlets that haven't talked about the Russians, they also, none of them, zero, have talked about his overwhelming hundreds of ties to Israel. And that is enormously strange.
And look, this is not some kooky conspiracy theory. I mean, this used to be considered a conspiracy theory, not anymore. And
Tako je. Činjenice su tu.
Indication that people know what's really going on. It's unclear if they're going to do anything about it. Is how some Republican lawmakers are talking about this issue. So I bring you Josh Hawley, Senator.
At Dropside, we reported that an Israeli spy named Yoni Koren stayed at his New York City apartment for weeks on end, several periods of weeks on end. Tucker Carlson discussed it on his podcast the other day, and I want to know if you have any thoughts on that, because it's all in the documents between it and Brock. It wouldn't surprise you.
No, I mean, this is why I think it's so important to get these files out and have total transparency, is because his network was vast.
So there you have a senator, a Republican senator, Josh Hawley, asked about, Jeffrey Epstein's ties to Israeli intelligence. And you can also count on Congressman Thomas Massie to just say it like it is, especially when it comes to this issue. Let's watch.
Do you believe Netanyahu's involvement with Trump is influencing the decision of the Epstein file release?
I think Israel is influencing the Epstein file release because Israeli intelligence and our own CIA was wrapped up with Epstein. And so it would be embarrassing to our own intelligence agencies as well as Israel's intelligence agencies for all that to come out.
And do you think he was a Mossad agent?
Let's talk about agent. I think he helped Mossad.
He sure did. Jake, back to you.
Yeah, so in the past, literally no one would have admitted that. And which, by the way, again, stunning. Don't tell me that Israel doesn't control our government when it is unprecedented that when you could find two people in Congress who criticize Israel in this way, and when it's considered remarkable, right? Why? Why couldn't you criticize many of your allies? Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Canada. We don't seem shy in criticizing any of those. But when it comes to Israel, it was like, no. Okay, wait, all right, but you're revealing your hand. You have the worst poker face in the world. So Massie, a guy of enormous courage, the Ro Khanna, Tom Massie team got these files released, and they should build statues of them. Okay, one Republican, one Democrat. We found one in each party that's honest. Hawley is thinking of running for president, That's why he's got that smirk like, we all know it, but we can't say it.
Well,
but
then
you
you're
know
not
what?
fit to be president. Sorry.
No. But you know what? Since I'm going to run for president, and I know now, like, the jury's in, if you try to run for president, these days actually, especially on the right-wing side, and you're like, rah, rah, Israel, like Ted Cruz is, you got no chance. So that memo just got sent to Hawley. That's why Hawley's like, yeah, probably it's Israel.
Razbucani ste, vragovi.
On the Republican side? I think we're seeing the same type of energy on the left right now, where people are like, I'm not going to vote for a candidate who supports Israel.
Well, look, we're running OperationConsequences.com, where I say if you're a Democrat or a Republican, make a pledge in your primary, so you don't have to vote for the other side, to vote on anyone who gets money from the Israeli lobby or gives money to Israel. So I hope that both sides do it significantly. In my experience, like, if you asked me that question a year ago, I would have said, the left is much more likely to rebel against Israeli cabinet, against someone who's blindly supporting Israel within our primaries, right? Now, though, I think the right is more pissed, to be honest. And there's still a contingent on the left. I love you guys, but that are still like the Hillary Clinton dead-enders who are like, no, we just get Cory Booker.
Oh my God.
And like, yeah, he's totally 100% for Israel, but it's okay. He's so nice. You see what I'm saying? Like, a Cory Booker might have a shot on the Democratic side, but a Ted Cruz has no chance on the Republican side.
I'm a one-issue voter at this point, and we're at war. So I want to be very clear. If you watch the show and you think you got to vote for the Democrat no matter what, Democrat supports Israel, they're my enemy. I do see them that way.
Yeah, I mean, because they're saying, I'm not going to represent.
Tako je, ne u moje ime.
Like, just declaring it, I'm going to represent another country.
That person is going to steal my taxes and hand it over to a genocidal regime.
And by the way, the person
Not
who
interested.
the person who does that will also steal your taxes and hand them over to Big Pharma.
Yeah.
Because he's a thief and he's corrupt, and which describes about at least 95% of the Democrats in Congress. Last two things. Guys, Dropside News also showed that Epstein tried to acquire cyber weapons for Israel.
Yep.
Wow.
There's still a question as to who he was working for. How could you see that and say, nope, I don't see? I won't even report that there are any connections to Israel. That's when these news organizations are making that decision, they're basically planting a flag and saying, don't trust us. We work for Israel, and we will hide the truth from you. And the last people that are hiding the truth, the people you should be angriest at, is our own government. For decades, they knew this stuff. We're just learning it now, but Obama knew it, Biden knew it, Bush knew it, Trump knew it, and all of them were like, oh, yeah, we're all Epstein. And by the way, Epstein was in the middle of Iran-Contra. We knew he was arranging the Israeli end of Iran-Contra.
In the freaking 80s,
man. In the 80s.
Come on.
So both parties have known forever that we're selling out to the Israelis and our government works for Israel. And the most powerful people on earth are not all the powerful people, in this context, the people working with Epstein, we're all trying to help Israel. And our own government, Democrats and Republicans, said, yeah, let's betray the American people. By the way, they also knew all that time that they were raping those girls.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, go ahead. We're going to side with the predators who are against America, and we're going to side against young American girls and the American people. If you want to get mad at somebody, you should get mad at the disgusting politicians in America who sold us out.
I u Poljskoj, I u Evropi, i svugdje.
Yeah.
And matters that they sold us out. You should be furious with them. And never vote for a Republican or a Democrat who raises their hand and says, I'm going to keep selling you out. And if Israel gives me money, I'm going to take as much of your money as I can and hand it over to them, let alone the wars we're going to start for them.
That's right.
Unacceptable. OperationConsequences.com. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets...
Eto, znači, Poljska surađuje sa smradovima. Zatvorena su 2 aerodroma, zato kaj su Rusi izbombali elektranu u Ukrajini. Lažu, znači povezani su desetljećima s ovim đubretom koji je hvatao tamo djevojčice po Poljskoj, po Varšavi, po Mađarskoj, Slovačkoj i tak dalje, ne? Tu dokazi su svi tu. Tako da svi putevi zla vode u Izrael. Izrael i Amerika. Nije nama neprijatelj niti Rus, niti Kinez. Oni nama nisu neprijatelji. Neprijatelji su nam ovi iznutra koji surađuju sa ovim sotonama, antikristima na vlasti. To su naši neprijatelji. Eto. A ti Poljska, srami se. Znači, dno dna, fuj. Fuj. Veliki katolici. Veliki katolici. Toliko o tome.